Spent. Okay, right. We have Shani Vizma with us today. You are a VFX assistant editor for Warner Brothers, and I didn't mess that up. I'm very happy.
Nailed it.
Nailed it. Okay, we've got a lot to cover, but first off, we just curious to know about how you came about. What was the beginning for you in this industry? Was it a passion you always had, or was it something you fell into later on?
I mean, it's like, I think everyone, well, not everyone, but I started out being like, oh, I want to be an actress when I was younger, and quickly realized that I was much more interested in what was going on behind. So like I was up at the core in Corby, and I was with just fascinated by directors, fascinated by what they were doing, fascinated by how like they had all this team, they were being like really creative. And that was when I was like 15. So it kind of probably started then. And that's where it initially started. And then I just knew it was film. I just couldn't, I would watch like DVD extras on films, and I was just like, it was like a frustration. I was like, I've got to be there. I've got to like be involved somehow. And then, it was years of eventually getting to that point.
I love DVD extras. That was sort of the YouTube of our generation. The featurettes. Something that's dead now, which I miss, is the director's commentary. You don't see that anymore.
Yeah, and they're so interesting. I mean, I guess you see them sometimes pop up on like YouTube and stuff. I guess that's where they are now, maybe. But yeah, you don't really come across them too much. I don't.
There's a new industry that's sort of started now on YouTube, which is like you just get everyday folks doing their own commentary. So you sign up to their Patreon account.
Yeah,
which I've never done. I'm not that committed, but just listen to a bunch of strangers watch me to get their take on movies. Some of them can be hilarious.
I used to watch comedy director commentaries because they just say obscene stuff just because they know no one's going to hear it except the fans,
Yeah, they're not trying to impress anyone. It's having a good time.
I did media studies at 16, and even when I was there, they would talk quite openly about how difficult it was to get into the industry, and that sort of initiation process, like being the term runner used to come up a lot. Being a runner, that would be anywhere between getting the coffee for actresses or presenters or whoever it may be, just being there for help, being a useful third wheel.
Runners and PAs are they hold everything together. Like a good PA and a good runner is it just makes all the difference. It really does. But yeah, you asked like how I got into it. I feel like I had a few attempts, and I was given a good piece of advice where it was like, if you're trying to get in one way and it doesn't work, like try another way. And that like really stuck with me, because I'd have like one contact. So I knew no one. I didn't know anyone from the industry. But yeah, I did the kind of A-levels, uni, went to uni, and I was just like, this just seems so impossible. Like, this is great, and I'm doing this degree, and I'm going to have all this debt. But then what am I going to do? And I thought maybe I should give it up. But then in my second year, people started coming in and doing talks. And there was a Hollyoaks director. He came in, and I was just like, he's the first person I've ever seen from the industry. So I was just like, straight after, I was like up to him, and I was like, hi, I'm Shani. I need your email address. I probably said it a lot more polite than that. But I got his email address, and then I think about 6 months of emailing him with no reply. So like I sent him one email, just like the one you're told to do, like, oh, tell him what you've been up to. Like I had no experience. I was like, oh, this is what I've been working on in my course. Like, I love your work and stuff. And anyway, I sent him like a couple of emails over 6 months. And after 6 months, he was like, oh, you're really persistent. I'm going to give you a break. You can come in and do some like work shadowing. So that was my first bit of like experience on set was like through him. Wasn't paid, but I was there. So that was a good start.
That level of determination though. Sorry, Sean, carry on.
So do you reckon that's still prevalent now in the industry, runners and PAs?
Well, they're still there.
Yeah, like you said, it's important now. It's still.
Oh yeah, very very much so. Yeah, like they're completely. Yeah, they're so important.
How long were you doing this sort of initiation phase before you started to actually land your first paid role?
So I was doing that when I was about 19, and then I was maybe about 23 when it eventually worked out. Like I did like weird stuff. I just did anything I could, like, because I needed to build up my CV. I didn't really know what I needed to do, but I know I needed to just keep trying. I was on like some really weird horror druid film at one point in the middle of like the Cotswolds, and it was, and then I stayed in a dominatrix house for a room. She's actually great, by the way, but I stayed in her house because I needed somewhere to stay so I could get to set and stuff. Yeah, there was a lot of odd jobs, but I guess where it actually really changed, and who I do really want to talk about, is this company called Screen Skills. I just before I messaged them, I'd essentially given up because I couldn't find like long-term paid work, and I was just like, I couldn't see a way to really get in and to like keep paying rent and stuff, because I'd find like an odd job and then there'd be nothing, and it wasn't going too well. So I moved back to Corby and got a job at RS and stayed there for a while. And,
RS Components represent.
yeah. I worked there for a bit, and I used that time to get my license, driver's license, and
Sorry, carry on. My contrast is terrible, so I'm going to have to close the curtains.
that's okay. Because I knew that to be a runner, you need to drive. That's so important. And I'll maybe talk about that later. But so I was there for about 9 months. And then there's this company called Screen Skills. And so they essentially help people from all backgrounds get into the industry. So you can apply to them and be like a trainee on their traineeship. And so, yeah, I applied to them, and I was like, look, I've seen you around. I've seen you've been about for a few years, and I've always wanted to apply, but I don't have that much experience. But little did I know, I did really, because all those odd jobs that I'd done, all those little things, like they add up. So I had on-set experience. I just didn't have like really big titles, because a lot of these things were like people's passion projects. So I didn't have like a big name to put on my CV, but they knew that I had that on-set experience, and I had my driving license, because when you're applying, you have to do all this information, and then it says like, do you have a driving license? Yes, no. So it's kind of like, you know, that's obviously really important. So I was eventually able to tick yes on that, and then I got on, and it feels like it went from 0 to 100 when I got onto that traineeship, and yeah, left Corby. So.
Yeah, there's that sort of threshold that you have to pass, and it applies in all industries. And once you get past that last hurdle, it just boom, everything kicks off. So what was the first major production that you wound up on?
The first big film was Fantastic Beasts, Crimes of Grindelwald, the second one.
Right, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the first one. It wasn't the first film after I moved to London. I was on the first film when I moved to London was a BBC independent film called Versus, and it was about battle rap in London. So nice. that was quite an interesting one. When
you're stepping onto this set for the first time, how hard did it hit you that the scale of these productions? I mean, they're ginormous. Yeah,
they are, and they're impressive. And rightly so, because there's so many people that have put so much effort and time into building these sets. But I was actually a fan of Harry Potter growing up, but so it was just so surreal. I think because I'd been working so hard for so long, and when I got to that point, I was still kind of like going at 100 miles an hour, trying not to mess up, trying to impress everyone, and trying to do a good job. That I sort of look back on it, and I'm like, I didn't really take the time to appreciate that job specifically, because I really didn't want to fuck it up. But yeah, it was like the sets are incredible. Like they're huge, and it's you're just like it's all like all these little busybodies. Like it's like being in like in a hive, and watching it come to life, as well as watching the very real stuff where it's like, you've got a little like tea station at the side, and it's like all people kind of like gathering around there, and next to this, like, you got your Tetley, you got your gold, and it's just it was just, yeah. But I had a moment where I walked onto a set where I was like really impressed, and that was on Wonder Woman. So in the final scene, there's this big fight between Wonder Woman and Cheetah. And the set for that was just stunning. It was, you went in and it was this huge like dome thing that they had, and then inside that was the whole set, and it was a compound. I'll tell you what, I don't even know what a compound is, but it's like essentially like this cliffside baddie area, and it was like they had a lot of these plants and rocks and water, the big waterfall pylons, because there's a big fight they do on the pylons, and that was when I was just kind of like, I've been working my ass off for so long, and now I'm here, and it is so cool.
That's that moment of awe where you're just like, wow, you're in that present moment. You're like, here I am. Now what?
That was a moment where I actually remembered taking a minute to be like, this is really, this is all paid off.
So how long is a day on set? I mean, what time are you getting up, and how long does it go on for?
Long, really long. So if call times, it depends on different departments as well. So like call time is like 8. You can't get there really for 8. You have to get there for like 7, because like breakfast is there, and you got to get there for breakfast, get set, make sure everything's ready. And then I think as a standard, they're like 12-hour days, but 10 hours, but they end up being 12 with the stuff you do before and after. That's when you're filming. And then post-production can also be 12, but it's usually a bit more, not as bad.
I think a lot of people don't realize with these massive films, these what they call tentpole movies, is that a lot of it will be filmed like years before its release, and then the post-production usually goes on a lot longer than the actual, what they call, is it photography?
Post-production. Oh yeah, like what you mean, that in the shoot?
Yeah, I forgot the name of it. I see it all the time. But there's some sort of like, there's some sort of production.
Principal photography. Yeah.
That's it. So principal photography, like that goes on for, say, I don't know, eight months maximum, right? But the post-production, the editing, all the special effects, whatever, that's going to go on for at least a year to 18 months. And then the film's released. Yeah.
It's longer, but it depends, but there's always a deadline. And then if stuff goes wrong, or, if the director's not happy, or the studio's not happy, then they might do some reshoots and add on some time. But generally there's like, the deadlines are set in stone kind of quite early on. So like, I think like Marvel, for example, gave out like this timeline of all these films that are going to be coming out. So it's like, before they've even had a chance, like they've already got these very strict timelines to get everything done in before they can even start. It's like they can't start to a certain point and they have to finish by a certain point.
Yeah. Sorry, man. Say something changed when it went into post-production, like a president change. Would you have to go in and then change the president, for example?
The president, like a character changes, say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, stuff does change, and then they have to reshoot stuff. Like sometimes whole endings are reshot, but it's no film. Happy to be called out, but no film is filmed without reshoots. All films have reshoots. They never nail it in like the first few. Yeah. They usually set in the middle of post-production. They'll set like a few weeks or a month or so to fix stuff or change stuff.
That's why you get test audiences, don't you? Have you ever been to one of those sort of like those early screens? I've
been to a couple early screenings, yeah, but not any of the ones that I've worked on. But yeah, I'd love to go. But I think they tend to be like friends and close family and stuff.
I do find stuff like that interesting. Like going back to Marvel, not only were they making these massive tentpole movies, but they had to fit a certain narrative so that the story would stay relatively consistent over a 10-year period.
Yeah.
And love it or hate Marvel, that was a miracle what they'd done. Watching Endgame, I mean, obviously everybody had to go watch Endgame. It was a sort of an obligation by that point. But when I was watching Endgame, I was just thinking, oh my God, they've managed to have every single film work in some capacity, either great or just good.
Yeah.
And then managed to make it all work to this one moment. I mean, how to make that, to pull that off is insane.
I think so. And to keep all the cast like alive and present as well is another thing. I mean, they do sign massive contracts, but I just think, you know, what if you changed your mind, you don't want to be in a film anymore or something.
Yeah, it's that's starting to change now though, about the whole if the actor's alive or not, because we've seen it in the last sort of, well, it's been done before, but it's starting to get very good now. There's this term used in VFX called the uncanny valley, which means our eyes are trained to, you know, perceive this reality. And if something isn't quite right, then we think, hang on a minute, that's not real.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's happened with Paul Walker when he passed away.
Yeah, I thought they did a good job there.
Oh, that was an amazing job. It was amazing. The ones that weren't so good, which were maybe, what was his name in Rogue One?
Yeah.
Peter.
I always forget his last name.
Stuck in my head.
Lord Tarquin or something.
It was Tarquin. Well, that was the character's name, yeah. So obviously he passed away back in the mid-90s. And the family, the estate, gave permission to use his likeness. And it's in the movie. And it was fair play for trying, but you can tell immediately in the cinema, you're like, that his face ain't real. That looks like plastic.
I always find it like when they try to de-age someone, it's always worse than, do you know what I mean? Than when they're, and if they're alive as well, it's like, why just get the actor to...
Yeah. I completely agree, and that does irritate me. But you know, like beauty fix is what it's called, and it's like if there's someone that's older, it's like let them be old. Let's see those wrinkles. Like it makes them more real and human. And it's like you'll have beautiful actors and actresses, and it's like they're like, oh, get rid of them wrinkles, get rid of that like blemish or you know whatever, or that age mark or something. And you just it irritates me, but I don't have any say. So.
It's just Hollywood vanity. That's all it's down to.
Yeah.
You've got to keeping up with appearances.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's some great examples of de-aging. Like I think the best one I've ever seen was Samuel L. Jackson in Captain Marvel. I think that was because they had to make him look like Samuel L. Jackson from the 90s, and they pulled it off. But then you look at Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen in X-Men: The Last Stand, which was in 2006. That's god awful.
Sort of like plastic looking.
Yeah, it's just, it doesn't look right. It doesn't look like a real face. So, but I mean, that was 2006. So fair play from, you know, it wasn't until Avatar came out that they started, you know, using that whole image marker thing, or I can't remember what the terminology is, but they would have those markers and they'd be able to do it live there and then.
Jeff Bridges looked pretty good in Tron though. Or I haven't seen that in a while, so am I just sat my brain playing tricks?
Doesn't look great now, but it was great when we first saw it. When I first saw it, I was blown away. But
if I got the green boys, it's like something reflected on my face.
It might be just the sun.
Yeah,
what were your thoughts on Jeff Bridges and Tron Legacy? The de-aging on that?
You asking?
Yeah.
Tron. I haven't seen Tron.
Well, it's all right. It's all right. I mean, it was one of those cinematic experiences. Like, you know, people say, oh, Avatar is it's just a rehash of Dances with Wolves. But when you're in the cinema with those 3D glasses on, seeing that film being filmed specifically for that.
Yeah, I loved Avatar. I get told they're like, I loved Avatar. I thought it was great. I was like blown away the first time I saw it, and I thought it was really good. There's going to be a sequel, and I can't wait to see that as well. Do
you think that's ever going to come out? The sequel.
I'm working on it.
I remember it's like, what was coming out in 2014, and then it pushed. And I think I understand the delays happening because of the scripts and the technology. So this better be a good film. I'll be so disappointed if it turns out like Escape from LA.
It's like, look at like The Flash, like that was like due to come out years ago. Well, when I was just before I started Fantastic Beasts, they were filming The Flash, and then that just got completely. I think it just they just stopped doing it. I don't know if it got cancelled or what, but now it's coming back. They're filming that now, or they're in post now.
Do you think they learned a lot of lessons with the sort of false starts they had with the DCEU? Because if Marvel's proven anything, is that it's very, very difficult to do it correctly.
Yeah. I mean, I sort of feel like DC is trying so hard to be like them, and when you try and be like something else, then it's not going to work. But DC has got some amazing characters. Like I love Batman and I love Wonder Woman, but I don't know. I just feel like the grit isn't quite. Apart from Batman, I think all of his are quite good, but I feel like the grit with a lot of the DC characters just isn't there. Like they're quite polished and not very relatable. Not
Can't
very...
make Aquaman gritty.
Yeah.
You just can't.
No.
You need James Franco playing him or something.
Yeah. That's
honestly.
He's a merman.
He's perfect.
Yeah. No, he is.
I'd let him spin me. Sorry, I'm going on a bit.
No, that's cool. It's cool. This is the beauty of editing. You know what I mean? Things at work, we just, I construct a narrative out.
I love it.
No, we'll keep that in.
Have you seen anyone seen the Snyder Cut yet? Justice League.
I haven't.
Neither have I.
Friends that have seen it, but yeah, no, I would like to see it.
They spoke highly. I've heard good things about it.
Yeah, no,
I haven't seen it. No, I want to see it because apparently it's really good.
Yeah. No, I'm always interested to see when people have made such an effort to fix something. Like I don't know if you saw with Sonic the Hedgehog.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like they were just like, this isn't working. He looks terrifying. But
I have so much respect for what they did, because that trailer came out and Sonic was the character design was all wrong and people kicked off. And I can't remember which company distributed that or produced that, but they took notice of the fans and redid it and pushed the release 6 months. I'm thinking that's how it's done.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I don't know if it was like I have no contact to it at all, but if some were like, oh, maybe it was a publicity stunt, but so what? If it was, it worked.
That's an expensive publicity stunt.
Yeah, I know, right?
This wouldn't be feasible. But one thing I did want to touch up on was the impact that COVID's had on the industry.
Yeah.
So talk us through that. How did it, when it all started off in March, like, was it just shut down completely?
Yeah, it shut down completely. I'm in Berlin at the minute, and I was due to come out here. Like at the start of 2020, I was just like so excited for the year. And then it just kind of hit and everything stopped. The same as everywhere, like everything stopped, and all these kind of leads and avenues that so many of us had just went. And it was very scary because we're not protected, and we fall out of a lot of the financial safety pots. So we were pretty much on our own, a lot of people. Like I was lucky in that I'd moved out of my London flat because I thought I was coming here, so I moved back in with my mum, which was nice. So I was like with her for months, but yeah, it was just really weird because you realize how fragile this industry is, and that it can just like pop at any moment. But I always think we have a very, very privileged industry. We're very, very lucky to do the things we do. But yeah, to have everything just stop like that, and no idea when you're going to get paid next. Some still, a lot of people still not working. Was very scary. So yeah, when I did come back to work, it was completely different. The amazing thing about working in this industry is going to set, is meeting so many people and seeing all these different departments. But it was like you have to stay completely separate from everyone. You're essentially not allowed to speak to everyone. You get like your head zapped on the way in, which I think a lot of people do now. You get tested twice a week. So yeah, it just became it's an odd reality to come back to. But working, so extremely grateful for that. But yeah, didn't like coming back and seeing the literally not like, so they were like, oh, you had a lanyard, and like a lanyard different colors, and it was like you weren't allowed. So I was blue, and then my friend was purple, and they're like, you're not allowed to speak to each other. And it's like, oh, like so it was very weird. and very weird. And people are monitoring that as well, so to make sure you don't.
Yeah, because it's all about insurance, ain't it? You know, if anything goes wrong, because I mean, we mentioned off air, like we're going to say about the Tom Cruise blowout, and I can see both sides of the argument. I honestly can, like him going completely berserk. And then I kind of stopped and thought about it. I think, well, hang on a minute. He's the producer of the Mission Impossible films, so he's got so much on his shoulders.
Yeah, and there does have to be someone. We do have to do these things to protect ourselves and others, and you know, it's like it is. There's got to be that authority figure. I mean, I know he obviously went to town with telling everyone, but there does have to be someone there, like saying, like, "Oh, don't do these things," because when someone gets sick and it spreads like wildfire, we're just back into unemployment again. So that side of it is what's important. You know, keeping everyone employed, keeping everyone getting paid, and not living with a mum.
Yeah, there's too much at stake with these tentpole movies. I mean, we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, you being on set, you understand where all that money's going. I mean, just to have just to have the catering there 8 hours a day every day.
Yeah,
that's good. That's a lot of money.
Catering's great. Yeah,
catering, carpenters, makeup artists, your industry, VFX, it just all adds up, doesn't it?
Yes.
So when a movie says when Wikipedia says a movie costs $200 million, chances are it costs $400 million because there's also marketing expenses, PA, all that other stuff thrown in there. It's a preposterous amount of money.
It's an insane amount of money that goes into these things. But I always find it quite interesting when so if you're on like a lower budget film, so like a lower budget would be like, say, 250,000. Still a lot of money. But it's like they can do it, and sometimes they can do it really well and make it look good. But then you've got these films that are millions and millions and millions, and it just can't. And you're like, what? Like, where did it all go? Like, why did they put money into the story or something like that? But it's like they've just got all this money and they're just like, let's film it on a beach, let's film it on the moon, let's do all this stuff. And then it's like, you're not actually thinking about the story here. Spend it on the story, and then maybe it'll.
Yeah, it does happen. It happens with movies. It happens with video games. I mean, we're going to hopefully get someone, what do they call them? I've gone blank. Game designer, someone who works on video games, talk about Cyberpunk, how they wasted all that money doing the trailer rather than the actual game itself. But
you're going to interview someone that does games and stuff.
Yeah, it'd just be interesting to get insider knowledge like yourself. You know, that insider knowledge just to bring awareness, because you get a lot of actors, a lot of the focus is on the actors or the directors and quite recently the writers, but it's like you guys are the real heroes on this, because there's so many of you and there's this kind of ant colony thing going on. It has to run perfectly. Otherwise.
We still like keep working. I think maybe what a lot of people don't realize with visual effects is so there's a relatively small team that's out on location with the film that's being made, and then the visual effects artists, we have a select few with us, like not very many, and then we outsource it. So we have vendors. So there's huge companies in London called like DNEG and Frame Store, and they actually do the visual effects work. So we film everything. We get the script, and the director will sit with the VFX supervisor, and they will discuss how they're going to bring that heavy VFX scene to life. And then we go and film it, and then we capture all the information we need. We have data wranglers, and they take a shit ton of pictures of reference, and so they'll measure like how far the actor, say if the actor's is in like a motion body capture suit, they'll measure how far he is like from the camera and all sorts. And we gather all this information and then send it over to a vendor, and then they start working on doing what's essentially in the film. And then there's this back and forth that goes on for months and months, where they send us their visual effects shots, and our supervisor will write notes, and we'll pass those back to the vendor. But we also are a go-between between them and the editorial department. So we add in all these visual effects shots into the timeline, into the film, and see how they work and how they don't work, and how certain things like sync up. Like if we're adding in like bullets, we need to make sure that the person's looking at the bullet, or that they're looking at the gun in the right way. So for example, so we're a go-between between them, and we have a lot to do with a lot of people on both sides.
Explains why it goes on for so long, that post-production period.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
I'm sure it makes it even harder, especially when you're dealing with third parties who might not speak the same language either. So that's always going to be an obstacle.
Yeah, there's visual effects companies all over the world. We've got some in France and Singapore, and there's loads.
Is there any particular country that is the best of that sort of part of the industry?
The best visual effects companies. I don't want to say who's the best, but like I think they've all got something else they can offer. So like a visual effects, when they'll try and like sell themselves to you to say like, we want to do that shot, or we want to do this work, and they'll send reels. So you kind of look at that vendor and you see what they're good at. So like they might be really good at characters. So if you imagine like Paddington or something, like they might be really good at doing like hair and stuff on animals and things. Or there might be a company that's really good at set extension. So they'll have like a reel they can show you that's got all these like amazing like beaches or mountains or outside of window views, city views and stuff. And you tend to go for the vendor that can do the best of what they're good at. So all vendors are good at different things.
What's your favourite visual effect to do? What vendor would you go for?
What vendor would I go for? Well, I've come across a company fairly recently called Rise, and they're based in Berlin, and they're very, very efficient, and they're very, very good, and very quick turnaround. Like you can send them something and they'll send it straight back in really good quality. And I'm all for supporting small companies, so but Rise are pretty good.
It can be a tough one for these sort of individual industries these third parties. And there was one company, they worked on The Life of Pi. There's quite a controversial moment where they did an Oscar. They won an Oscar for their VFX on The Life of Pi. And then they went up on stage and said, oh, by the way, as they were doing their speech, they were saying, oh, we've had to shut down and lay people off and all that. But then they started playing the Jaws theme tune to get them off, basically. And then they cut their mic out. I'm thinking,
I never saw that, but that is so interesting you say that, because they're a company based in Berlin, and they essentially went out of business because of The Life of Pi, and they're back now and doing other things, but they're not touching films. I think that is visual effects you need to protect yourself with these companies, because I think it's quite common for film little companies to go bankrupt.
Yeah, they're freelancers, aren't they? And also there's a saturation of the markets. They're all competing for the contracts from these big production companies or film, whatever you want to call it. I'm not clued up on the terminology. I always want to think distributor, production company, whatever.
That's
it is a shame. It is a shame. Well, there's a documentary I recommend that covers the team behind The Life of Pi, the VFX team. Worth checking out. And they mentioned that Jaws bit at the end. Well, not the Jaws bit, the Oscar speech with the Jaws theme from then getting kicked off the stage.
And what's it called? Do you know?
Just type in The Life of Pi documentary and it should come up quite quickly.
That's interesting. I'll check that out.
One thing I was curious about regarding the whole post-pandemic, we're starting to see it's a bit shaky in regards of cinemas.
Yeah.
Like, could we be seeing the demise of cinemas? And if so, what will be the thing that takes over or be the successor of the cinemas? Because, the cinemas kind of hung on very well for as long as they did, because the cinema is, even without the pandemic in the equation, it was quite an archaic thing that clung on. And it was the main growth of the income for these movies. Mm-hmm. That first couple of weeks was the most important. After those couple of weeks, that was it. You weren't making any more money on it.
Yeah, it's such a shame, because the cinema is such an amazing place, you know, obviously biased, but like just being able to go there and like you can go by yourself, you don't need to go with anyone, and just like go and watch a film. Like you're there in that moment to watch the film. You can't press pause, you can't like be distracted by anything, you just got to sit there and watch it. And I just think, because with, I mean, I'm terrible for it, but it's like, you know, if you're at home, you pause it, you go on your phone, like you're not really investing in that story. And I don't know what's going to take over. I mean, I feel like TV and series like that you can binge are taking over, or more watched than films. I feel like because we just don't have the same attention span to like sit maybe and watch like a film that maybe we used to, because we want sort of like quicker. I mean, I know that obviously watching a series is longer, but yeah, I don't know what's going to take over. Like physically going somewhere might die out. I hope it doesn't. I really, really hope it doesn't. But yeah, maybe because we can have home cinemas where it's like we don't have someone chewing and eating food, and we don't have like people talking or anything. We've got the technology at home to have like a really good cinema experience now with projectors. You can get pretty decent projectors at home. So you sort of think, why would you go? But I guess it's on cinemas. They need to bring the prices down for a start, because like it's quite a commitment. Yeah, make it more accessible. You know, change the seats or
massive field, and then get headphones in your car. It's like a massive screen.
They do that already with drive-in movie theaters.
They do.
That's what I'm thinking.
Drive-in ones seem to be quite popular in London, so make a thing of it.
That's it.
Yeah, not.
Cut that bit out. That's our idea.
Okay. Well, I mean, I was never a massive cinema goer. I mean, I was when I was a teenager, because this was during the Labour government, right? So we got ESA or something like that. I think it was called EMA. It was like you got like
EMA. That's it.
EMA. We got a £30 allowance max. Like if you're really poor, you got a £30 a week allowance. I was £20, and then my mum not lost a job. She changed jobs, so I fit into the £30. I was buzzing for that, man. I got Subway and cinema every week. And you'd get the orange 2-for-1.
Yeah.
So you always knew a friend that had the code.
Yeah.
Send them the code, and you go to the cinema for next to nothing. So Wednesday was always the busiest day, and that was it. It didn't, even if the film was a piece of shit movie, you'd go. It
was an incentive, definitely, and that Orange Wednesdays.
That was
So they definitely need to think of something.
Yeah, you got Meerkat movies.
Meerkat. Oh yeah, of course. Meerkat. But don't you have to buy insurance?
Never used it though.
You have to buy insurance. That's it. And so the last few times I did go to the cinema, pre-pandemic, every time I was there, because it'd probably be like twice a year, maybe I'd go to the cinema. And I remember why the cinema was so special, because you've got that surround sound, that boom, boom, like the chairs would sometimes vibrate, and you're like, wow, it doesn't even compare. Like Tron Legacy, to be honest, is a mediocre movie. But watching that in the cinema was breathtaking.
Exactly. Some films you just have to see in the cinema, like it's surround sound and all of it. Just
me and Dan were talking yesterday about Jurassic Park 3.
Oh no, go on.
It's a giant piece of shit, but I seen it in the cinema. And it's a piece of shit, but it's great. It was great in the cinema.
It's got the best scene in any Jurassic Park movie. Do you know what it is? It's when Sam Neill is asleep on the plane going to the island, and he has a nightmare, and then the little Tyrannosaurus Rex just goes, Alan.
Little velociraptor. Alan.
Oh my god. I think it was in the second one where it became a meme where it's like the dinosaurs are coming and that guy grabs his martini and just like runs.
Oh yeah.
We did that. We did. Me and Sean sometimes do like gaming, like streaming. We do Twitch, and there was this one segment that we done where we're just talking about our favorite corny 90s action movie dialogue, and some of them are just so funny in hindsight because it just doesn't fit with the tone of the situation. So like Speed with Keanu Reeves, there's a bit where like the bus is on its own little, it's got its own little highway, so everything's great. You know how the script writers describe it like that. Everything sort of calms down for the second act, and then you've got that next obstacle coming up, and the next obstacle turns out that the bridge isn't even finished, so they got to think quickly. And I can't remember it too well, but he goes, Captain, the bridge isn't finished. He goes, what? It should have been done like early last year, and then the guy just turns around and goes, "Yeah, well, I guess they fell behind." This is proportion.
I actually watched Speed recently, and they do that jump like on it. Like
it's even level, right? So it's like, I don't know how it's even level. So the bus would just go.
Somehow the bus goes.
Somehow, yeah. And there's that extended shot where it's just the bus is just flying. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know it's silly, but there was something that was just great about those 90s action movies.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Like, I like films when they're a bit crap like that. They're not. It feels like they're just having fun, and it's. I don't know. I feel like if you try and do something like that now, I don't know if it would fall in the same way. But I don't know. Yeah, 90s action films.
I think the executives just wouldn't even let it through the door by this point, would they? Because they're the ones that decide what happens. You notice that because I'm a big fan of practical effects. You know, like your David Cronenberg movies, and The Fly is one of my favorite body horror movies of all time. I think the special effects done on that, not special effects, the practical effects and makeup.
John Carpenter.
Yeah, the thing.
Yeah, so in Germany, that's called Das Ding. And I found a boyfriend found a DVD, and it was like Das Ding, and I was like,
it's funny how movies names get changed depending on which region they're going to. Like the Hangover series in France was called Very Very Bad Holiday or Very Bad Day or something like
that. Very Bad Day. We saw one. It was Shaun the Sheep, and it was Shaun Dash Shack.
Yeah. Well, here's a bit of movie trivia for you. You like this one, right? So I'm living in Weymouth, and connected to Weymouth is a small island called Portland. And Portland is it's almost like its own sovereign nation. It only recently in the last 10-15 years has become part of the mainland England, and they have a very big superstition towards rabbits because obviously the quarries are based in Portland, and there was a horrific incident that happened in either the early 20th century or late 19th century where the quarry collapsed because of the rabbits, and over 100 people died. So it was a massive tragedy for this community, and because of that they never say the word rabbit, they have to say the word bunny. So 2005 rolls along, and Wallace and Gromit: Curse of the Were-Rabbit comes out, and the posters on the bus stop in Portland and the whole island kick off. So they actually had to recall that poster and replace it with a secondary poster just for that one island.
What, like Curse of the Bunny?
Something about it. I don't know, because they always have like an alternative poster, don't they? So they just give them another one.
Oh, this did like a different one. There you go. That's interesting. But talking about like practical effects, like I'm the same. I have so much respect for stuff that's shot in camera, because if they really go to like the right effort, it just looks incredible. So a good example of that that I saw was the Dark Crystal series.
Oh yeah, I loved that. Loved it.
It came out on Netflix, and it was like obviously it's puppets and things, but it really felt like another world. Like I could see that it was puppets. I could see that it was, but my mind completely believed it, and I got completely lost in it. And then I watched the interview afterwards about how they brought visual effects into it, and visual effects was used to highlight the special effects, and it just sounded like the best way for it to be done. So like they did the set extension. But they also just kind of like the eyes of the puppets, they just made them like glisten a little bit and like gave them like a little bit of color in their cheeks, but not too much. And it was just such a good example of when the two work well together, like they really, really work well.
Yeah, what's it called? Marionettes?
Or something? The puppet,
something like that. And I think that's a massively underestimated skill to operate those things.
I love puppets, but I love them now. After that.
Well, Trey Parker and Matt Stone found out very, very quickly just how difficult that kind of film was, because they did Team America: World Police.
Oh yeah.
And they've gone on record saying it was the worst experience of their lives because they were still doing South Park at the same time.
Right, yeah. I think it's definitely more time consuming. I don't know if it's more. I don't know, but it seems like it's physically.
It's totally worth it though. Totally worth it, because again, Dark Crystals is so good. I watched it last year with my girlfriend, and she kept telling me about it because it was based on an 80s thing. It's quite
like horrific and quite scary, and it's like I have to tell myself these are just puppets. But I was bothered by it.
I'm glad you've reminded me of it, because I'm going to go watch it again now. It was just one of those things that I don't know what was going on at that time period, why I can't remember it, but probably it happens. But it was amazing. I remember the thing I was going to ask you earlier on now that kind of slipped my mind. But something I noticed was that we're seeing a trend now, and I don't know if it's related to the pandemic or not, but a lot of old school directors are re-releasing or redoing edits to certain movies. They did it with The Godfather 3.
Yeah.
So the Godfather 3 has been redone, retouched, and re-released. I think it's called Coda. And Sylvester Stallone is currently doing it with Rocky 4. So he's doing a 35-year anniversary. And also they did it with the Snyder Cut. I'm thinking, is that going to be a new trend now? They're just going to, because the cinemas are sort of died out temporarily or maybe permanently, they're just going to start re-releasing older movies based on recuts or re-edits.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say like what's gonna what they're thinking, but I mean, I don't really know where I stand on it, especially with like classics like The Godfather and Rocky, because I'm like, they were good at the time. So like,
Rocky 4 was like, it was an hour of movie and like 30 minutes of montages.
Oh really? Yeah, so yeah, redoing it. But I don't know. I think I got quite frustrated, I guess, that all these remakes, because I just thought
remakes, reboots. What's the difference? I know the difference, but like,
soft reboots.
I just feel like why don't they take a gamble on a new story? And because that is it, it's a gamble for them. They know that these stories work. They know it'll get people buying tickets or streaming it or something. But I really wish that I hope that I see more studios taking a gamble with new writers, new stories. I guess my answer to your question would be I hope we don't see that too much. Maybe for a few classics and stuff, but I would just love to see something come out, like a trailer where I'm like, oh wow, yeah, let's go and see that. Not like it looks kind of like it. I hope it has the songs or whatever.
I'm all for like they're remaking all the Resident Evil films. Them original ones were totally off base with the game and suck massive balls.
I love the first Resident Evil movie. It's amazing. She kicks a dog in the face. I mean, come on.
Have you played the games?
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. It was as far as adaptations go, it's dreadful. But
no one's called Alice in Resident Evil 1, Daniel.
Okay. But I know what you're saying. Yeah, certain remakes are beneficial. Most of them not, though.
Yeah.
Most fan service, though. Because I don't think no one's going to give a shit about new Resident Evil films now. Because there's a big fan base behind those originals.
You're right.
For some strange reason. You know
yeah, I mean? Like people have moved on, and like the people that are going to see it maybe won't this time around.
Won't make as much money.
Yeah, it's a good point.
That's the point I was going to ask as well. Do you reckon visual effects became a bigger part of the movie industry after incidents like Brandon Lee getting shot, stuff like that?
I think
it's a bit deep, but like I just thought of it.
I mean, I think visual effects has just become more because they've gotten better at it. Like
true.
Like in the 90s, or like early films, like the first visual effects were so bad, but more money's in it. It's a fast growing industry, and I feel like a lot of films definitely rely on visual effects. Like sometimes it feels like they haven't really made much of an effort to film it in camera. They've just gone all green screen and then like put visual effects in it. But yeah, I would love to see. I think we're going to see a lot more of it. It's just if they tone it down a bit and try and be more clever with it. I don't know.
I've got an inside industry controversy for you that you might want to hear your take on. Okay. So I'm sure you're aware of a cinematographer by the name of Roger Deakins.
Mm-hmm.
Probably one of the best cinematographers in the world, and actors will sign up to a movie just because he's part of it. And he's a big advocate for digital, whereas you get the likes of, say, Quentin Tarantino and Christopher Nolan, and to some degree Martin Scorsese, who were more purists when it came to, I can't remember the term, if it was 9mm or 8mm, whatever millimeter it is.
Film.
Yeah, just film. Yeah. But Roger Deakins is in the best in the industry. And he said, I'd rather film it in digital so I can see what's happening there and then, rather than have to wait a day for the dailies to come in and then have to do it again.
Yeah.
So what's your take on that?
Shooting on film, if it suits like that story and the setting, and that, you know, they're going to be filming outdoors, in where it's going to look nice on film. I guess in the same way, if you're going to take something on a picture, is it going to look better on film or in digital? But he's right in that, yeah, like when you shoot on film, you literally have to take massive rolls of film, and they have to go off and be scanned and then sent back. And it does put a delay on the editing process. But it can look prettier, and it can give it that kind of edge. But I definitely don't think visual effects and film really work well together, because we're a very digital department, and I guess, yeah, you scan film, and then once it's scanned, it becomes digital, and then you can throw the visual effects in. But I think it purely just comes down to the director and DOP's vision, what avenue they want to go down, what they want it to look like. It's the aesthetic of it. I think it's only ever an aesthetic decision when you want to shoot on film. And then, yeah, digital you can do so much more with, and you can make digital look however you want it to look. You can make digital look like film if you want. But yeah, I guess like the more technical buffs will be like, oh, you can tell, but
you're always going to get those hipsters, aren't you?
Yeah.
I'm pro digital as well, because I'm very pragmatic. So I'm going to go for the thing that's the most practical to use. Like the editing software I use for these podcasts is Filmora 9, whereas a purist would use Adobe, I can't remember, Premiere Pro or something like that. I'm thinking, well, Filmora works. It's easy.
Yeah, exactly. But I think ultimately it comes down to the director's decision, what they're going for. So
we're getting towards the end, but before I ask you the big question, I was just curious about, which is the movie question, by the way.
Yeah.
So get ready for that one. Where is your career going now? Is there some doors opening up for you? What you got your eye on?
Well, I think pre-pandemic, I knew. Post-pandemic, it's changed my perception on a lot of things. Like I sort of, like, everyone sort of had that bit of like a health scare, and now I'm just sort of like, do I want to like work myself to death for forever? But no, I think I do want to carry on doing what I'm doing, and I guess ultimately I would see myself as a visual effects producer, and that would be like my end game and where I'd want to get to. And I wouldn't want to get there anytime soon. But at the same time, it's like I want to make sure that I take time for myself to do that I want to do, because with these films, if they're like a year, 2 years, it can just they just go by so fast. And then next thing you know, like that film's done, and then you're 2 years older. And so your life is kind of separated into like these like films. So I think but my next steps for me, I mean, let's just see what the industry looks like in a few months, see what the pandemic's done to it. I think it's going to be very busy. I think maybe we'll essentially just go back to normal, because entertainment is still very much needed. Everyone's at home watching stuff, so we're needed. But yeah, I guess I'll see what jobs come up, but I'm not going to be as maybe as tunnel vision maybe as that I have been.
You're not going to ingrain your goals in stone. You're just going to be cool, be easy, just go with the flow.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to try and enjoy life a bit more, and not just kind of wear myself out as much as I have been.
Favorite movie?
So I struggle with that question, because I love film and it changes all the time. But a film that I saw relatively recently that I just came out of the cinema like, that was fantastic, was Booksmart. And Booksmart is a coming of age film about these two girls. But what I love about it is they haven't put any stereotypes in. So like they set up these people that you're going to think like, oh, they're going to be the bullies, they're going to be the popular ones, they're going to be that. And they're not that at all. Like they haven't painted young people in a bad light, which I feel like so many films with young people, they just paint them out to be like so rigid in the way that they are. And then there's one like nerdy protagonist, like navigating it all. But it's just got these two girls that are like, one of them is like really vulgar and gross, and then the other one's just like trying to find a way in, like has this lesbian relationship, and but it's like fucking it up, and I'm just like, I just felt so fresh, like seeing it. I was just like, God, this is so good. Like it's Olivia Wilde, and then like there's this really rich kid, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna hate that person. But then it's like you go to the rich kid's party on his boat, and he's like just by himself, and he's got all these like goodie bags for everyone, but no one's there. No one's gone to his party, and you just feel really sorry for him. But I just thought it was so good. In terms of like characters, and like there's one scene where they get like really high and they turn into like Barbie dolls, and they're like, I can't feel on my legs, and it's just like walking around, and I related to it a lot, and just thought it was nice to see. Yeah, it's just good. I think it's a really, really good film to watch, and for any age, really. Not kids, but yeah. Anyway.
I love it when a film, when it subverts your idea of a character. You think you hate them, and then by the end you love them.
Yeah. No, it was really
it's a nice feeling as well when you're like, oh my God, this is a great movie. I'm gonna have a nice night tonight.
Yeah. You're like, I trust this film. It's gonna be good, sort of thing.
Okay, the next question is gonna be, yeah, you ask it.
What's a film everybody loves but you hate?
See, I have to think about it. A film that everybody loves that I hate.
Or you could reverse it, that everybody hates that you love.
That's an interesting take on it.
I guess Avatar. Like everybody hates it.
I was gonna say, because earlier I was holding it in, but
everybody hates it. But I
think it's just adult Smurfs.
I was quite young at the time when it came out, and it was like all glowy, and then there was like woo, and I was like wow. So I was probably quite visually impressed by it. But
if you don't mind me asking, how old are you? Because I thought you're my age or our age. 26. Oh, so you're only 3 years younger than us.
Yeah. But I mean, I haven't seen Avatar since it came out. I just remember liking it. But it's just one that like I like that everyone hates. But I mean, I remember I always used to say the film Australia, and everyone was like, "That's a terrible film." But I just
Has that got what's his name, Wolverine in it?
Yeah, Wolverine and Nicole Kidman. But I think at the time I was just like, oh, like they're on a ranch together. It's so romantic.
I can't even believe that was a film that was released in cinema. I mean, Australia.
It was bad. But ones that I hate that everyone loves, I guess most Bond films. I don't like Bond films. I can't stand the female representation. I know that they've tried to make them more modern, but it's just that whole like, oh, sleep with me. And she's like, no, sleep with me. No. And eventually she says yes. And it's like,
it becomes more predictable than an episode of Scooby-Doo, don't it? Because you're always going to have your two ladies, ain't you?
I've never really liked the Bond films because, I
mean, there's a Bond film called Thunder Pussy.
Yeah. No, it's not. It's
Octopussy. Octopussy. Thunderpussy. Thunderbolt. My bad. Let's get my Bond films mixed up.
You're thinking of the non-canon Bond films.
Oh yeah. Right.
So I guess
On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
That's a good one. That's a dark horse, that one, because that was an Australian actor that did that, and that's actually, in hindsight, they're like, that's actually a good Bond film.
Yeah,
it doesn't have the same.
Actually, it is. I said it because it's one of the non-canon ones, isn't it? But
yeah,
actually, really good.
And I haven't seen that one, so I've seen most of the modern ones and a few of the classic ones.
I've got time for GoldenEye, but that's about it. Because I was a big fan of the game for the N64 growing up, so I've always got time for GoldenEye. But other than that, the one
after GoldenEye, not another.
Tomorrow Never Dies, and then you got The World Is Not Enough.
Tomorrow Never Dies is good.
Is it? I couldn't get into it. But World Is Not Tomorrow. The World Is Not Enough is another good one because again, I had the game for the N64, so.
Yeah, so you were kind of already invested.
Yeah, I used to watch movies. If I ever got stuck on a video game back in the day, I used to watch the movie thinking it would help me, and it never did.
You didn't have like the walkthroughs online, so you had to like.
Yeah, like, watching GoldenEye will help.
Oh, in that scene. But,
yeah, I watched The Phantom Menace thinking it would help me get past a level in the Phantom Menace game.
Oh. Yeah, no, I feel like games in the past used to be like ridiculously impossible. Like I think I had like a PS2 Narnia game and I couldn't get past like the introduction. It was just like, it's just impossibly hard.
Those game-based, those movie-based games.
Movie-based games.
Yeah.
Really bad.
It's not good. It's not good.
No visual effects will fix them.
Nope. Well, we're reaching the end. I'm going to stop recording in a minute because there's some questions I've got to ask you off air.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'll just do a fade out. Fuck it.